Yeah.
Van Glorious, Vanguard.
Knowledge born.
Yeah.
United Front.
Tell it.
What you want.
To the Knowledge Radio.
We in here. What you got? Dot.
Work hard as a slave to one day be your savior. The wave unwavering. This is a labor of love. Rise with a purpose every day. Invigorated. If we were on TV, we'd be 10 times syndicated. If we waited for validation, a paycheck or accolades, we'd be starved, already lost or ran away. But when you're square, solid, and your circle too, you don't need a place for silence. The concept is conquered through media, not areas of people activity. A mix that don't lose ethnicity, tightness that don't lose elasticity. Explicitly, this isn't where we give the novice regard. Nah, this is where knowledge is born. Last time that I checked, I'm undefeated. Deliver edicts, can't resist when the gods build and manifest freedom. When lines get crossed, they may push a loss, cause they get handed a check. We kick your can and cancel your cancerous gestures. A prophet vision, precision, the prescription for the sickness is to inoculate your fate with the winning. Arrogant beginnings turn to humble endings. And US with KBA is a win-win. 1K.
Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Mastering the Mind series with your brother, the host and founder of the award-winning platform, Through the Knowledge Radio. Knowledge born alive. We here tonight. The first series. I've been striving to do this series for like 2 months. But every time this Friday came around, something was in the way, Something was in the way. So this is the right day, at the right time, in the right season, and in the right space to speak about mastering the mind. So as you see, topics of discussion that we'll discuss throughout the series: cultivating clarity, goal setting, vision building, self-discipline, accountability, and keeping focused. So the series will be one that enthralls the mind. The masters are coming together to remember the various parts and aspects of the mind. So we're going to deal with that here today. So I'm here to discuss kind of like an overview. And this won't be a long thing, but it'll be something that's fruitful. Leave me some commentary. Let me know if you think this series is going to be fruitful. It's going to be helpful. We're going to have some guests. Some people are going to come in and talk about their experiences. So if you want to be a part of this series, this Mastering the Mind series, if you want to build a mastermind group or coalition, then, let me know. Let me know what you want to do. So the reason for this mastermind series is birthed out of the October Daily Reflections Challenge that one of my sisters asked me about when I was doing another interview. And I was doing the Spotlight series for that Black Woman Empowerment series that we did, or the Black Goddess Empowerment series. Excuse me. One of the authors who came on was like, did you ever do that challenge that you said you was going to do in the interview? And it motivated me to actually do it. So shout out to Author Trevor D for that motivation. So I did it. And I didn't get an opportunity to do a recap of some of the lessons learned from that particular series. And I believe I do a broadcast on that by itself, going back through, each episode and charting down what was the word of power or the word of focus for that particular day, and kind of give a little recap of the entire series. So let's talk about mastering the mind. So the first question in our research should be, what is a master? What is a master? And how does one become a master? So these two questions are intertwined when we begin to look at them. A master is one who has labored and journeyed through a process and has arrived at a desired result, or qualifications or standards that are set, or guidelines that are set, that one could say from a group of masters that they had mastered a particular thing. Master is a process, and master is also a destination. This is something that you're looking to reach, a goal you're looking to obtain. But the mastering process is what you go through in order to arrive at your destination. So if we looked at that movie, The Matrix, they were talking about Agent Smith had a conversation with Morpheus, unlike any other conversation in the film. He says to him, I'm a Smith, an Agent Smith. And Morpheus' response to this agent, Smith, is, you all look the same to me. So when you look at a Smith, these two things are correlated together. A Smith is what someone is, and the same thing or functionality that the Smith is what the Smith does. So if you look at a gunsmith or you look at a blacksmith, the process that the blacksmith uses is called a smithing process. The same thing is true for a gunsmith, for that profession. So this is not only what you do in this profession, it's who you are in that profession. So a master gunsmith, it takes on a various form, from a destination to an adjective to a verb. Mastering. That's a process. So when we look at what is a master, you look at the process and the person, and they're succinct. So you say a master is one who began as an apprentice. Now that's very important. A master is one who has shown proficiency in their craft under a master. A master who instructs, one who guides, one who corrects, one who critiques, one who is so in tune that what they say and what they do are symmetrical. So the master began as a novice, as a neophyte, as a beginner. They didn't have all of the answers. They learned through example, trial and error, through guide, through trust and distrust of themselves. All of these things become a part of that process of a master, because we're talking about mastering the mind. And if you remember, again, in the Matrix film, Neo is with Morpheus at the jump scene. So they load the jump scene, and everybody who's an onlooker is looking at the jump sequence. And in their mind, they go back to their jump sequence automatically. It's not something that they stated, but how they were looking at this neophyte, at this jump sequence, was a determining factor that they had that experience. Otherwise, they wouldn't have even looked at the thing. So they said, okay, everybody's looking. And the one guy says, what if he does? Make the jump. Because the point was to learn from this experience that you still have more to learn. And it's okay to fall on your way to the top. So Morpheus is telling him, you have to free your mind. Just let it go. And he jumps. And he flows through the air with no effort at all and lands on the other side. And the neophyte, looking and involved and so heavily entrenched in his mind that he thinks that it's nothing to it, but it's everything to it. It's ever so burdensome in his body that he can't defy gravity, that he can't possibly make this jump. And he doesn't know that the onlookers are looking, and one in particular is rooting for him. After one said, everybody falls the first time. So he already knew what the end result was going to be, just like everybody else that was looking, but they still had an inkling of hope that if he was who he said he was, that he would be able to do something that no one else that was there looking did. So on this way, in this process, he's running full speed, very heavy steps. And he didn't even get a chance to jump because he was such in a full stride that he basically ran off of the roof and fell to the ground. And Cypher says, told you. Everybody falls the first time. Then he tells, Trinity, don't worry about it. But the conversation that leads to this right now was after he fell through the ground. That's how much of an impact he made. He came back up from the ground and he's sitting there. And he loses a tooth. His inability to accept to not accept the limitations, to him still thinking that it's only this, that kept him stuck and not able to make that leap. Many of us are in that place where we get to that point where everything in us is preventing us from reaching a point of elevation within us. The ability to ascend or transcend. We're stuck. So even though we're running with all of our might, we still can't make that leap. And even modeling behavior, you saw someone do it before you, right before you. And you saw that process. And he explained to you where you are and everything. That still doesn't mean that at that point you're supposed to be able to do it, but you can witness the result of what happens when you let go of that. So in this process of becoming the master, he had to be confronted, but he had to be a great reminder to everyone who had mastered that point that that's a part of the process. So as we look at it, and he comes up, he's sitting on the ground, and then the tooth comes out, and he's bleeding. He said, I thought it wasn't real. He's taught that he was in this imaginary place. But even in this space, even in the space of his mind, it was real, because Morpheus' response was said that your mind makes it real. He said the body can't live without the mind. He said the body cannot live without the mind. I was listening to my brother, Crown Prince Nasik Jose, speaking, and he said that there's 37 ways to die, and one of them, only one of them out of 37 total, is the one where you're actually dead. So there's 36 other explanations or ways or states of being that you could still be in the physical earth and be dead. Walking around, but dead. So when he said the body can't live without the mind, you know that there's something inside of you. But if you cannot actualize that experience, as they said, if you can't perceive it, you can't achieve it. So your body could be willing. Scripture says the mind is willing, but the flesh is weak. The body cannot live without the mind. This is the place where we are. So in this process of discovering who and what a master is, we understand that a master did not begin as a master. A master began as an apprentice. A master had to be rightly guided. A master had to receive instruction and be coachable and teachable and have the set ability to demonstrate mastery over those instructions that they receive. So this is the first part of the journey to mastering oneself, because there is a pathway that goes from the body to the mind. There's a set of instructions. There's some protocol that you must adhere to. As is the same with the celestial body, is the same as the terrestrial body. So in adherence to this process of mastering the mind, it has to be a clarity of focus in a space of understanding of who a master is and what a master must undergo in order to become a master. A master must labor as an apprentice under the supervision of a master for a period of time. A master must submit himself or herself to the process of becoming a master by one who has become a master. This is not a process that you can obtain on your own solely. So in this process of you being under the supervision and the tutelage of the master is responsible for giving you the tools necessary for you to use those implements. A master must remember how to connect with you as an apprentice, as a fellow of the craft at those levels. And when you have shown suitable proficiency or mastery in that particular area as an apprentice, you move to the next level. you move to the next level. This is the gestation process that we see or we don't see with the naked eye that happens under the soil. This is the gestation process of the idea that exists within the mind before the world sees it. And by the time the world sees it, it's a master. Because if it doesn't go through that gestation process, the world will never see it. It will be stillborn. It will be aborted. Think of how many ideas had never had the opportunity to see life in the physical world. Born is to bring into existence either physically or mentally. Now, when you're on this pathway, initially, you are filled with zeal. You're like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing right here. Whatever this thing is, just think in your mind. Thought travels at 24 billion miles per hour. So you were able to snatch that thought and sustain that thought at that velocity long enough to put it into the incubator of your mind. So this is why we're calling this series the Mastermind series, because we're delving into those intricacies. We are orienting your psyche around the process of giving birth to an idea that exists in your mind and how to master that mind in a way that it goes from theory to application. Ty RBG, man, shout out to Ty RBG. He said, theory, practice, and then be patient. So it comes as a thought that you grab a hold of, and you want to see that thought through the fruition process. So you got theory, then you got implementation, then you got theory, then you got implementation. Then after you've done the theory, practice, you have to have the wherewithal to understand that there's another part of the process that you cannot control. Then you got to be patient. You ever been longing for something and waiting for something, and you did everything that you could possibly do? You did all of the work that you were supposed to do. You out there, you made irrigation, you tended to the crops, topsoil, you talked to the earth, you reconnected and made your relationship with the earth, you gave adequate sunlight. And you're looking at the field, and the field still looks barren. And in that state right there, you can't see the bountiful harvest. In that state right there, you stuck. You have a decision to make in your mind. In that mind, what you say in that mind is what it is. If you look at that field and say that it's barren, it will be barren. It would barely produce the fruit. So no matter what tumultuous labor that you put into that, you said in your mind that was dead. Scriptures say life and death is in the power of the tongue. You thought it into existence and gave space for it, went through the gestation process, and then when it was time for it to come full term, when it shifted that 180 degrees to come out of the womb, you said it's dead. So it's dead. On the other hand, if you remembered in your mind when you walked that field initially, you saw the bountiful harvest. You saw the fruits of your labor, and you remember that this was a labor of love. And you begin to envision the crops growing and the bountiful harvest and the celebration of the families and the lives that would be impacted. And you use that vision And you used those words as you were walking through the field. And you were thankful for the field. You were thankful for every aspect that came along with this husbandry or this science of agriculture. You were thankful for it. Initially, you ain't even want to disturb the earth with the remnants of the earth that the earth provided. Your boots or your shoes, you took them off. You ran through barefoot. You were thankful. You were thankful because from this earth, it provided everything you needed, from the spiritual to the material. So your mind was in a different space. It was welcoming to all of the labor that was associated with it. You could envision it in your mind. The toil, the sweat. But just like with life, when it comes out of the womb, that ancestor return, that gift from that gestation period that African woman gives you, and you behold. Like they said in Rooster, behold the only thing greater than yourself to the universe. Behold the only thing greater than yourself. That conversation to God. That conversation of God in the life affirming sense. In that ancestral renewal sense. That gift. This child coming out of the womb. And the nurturing process and the caring process, the extra care process. And we will want our child like we would want our ideas and goals and aspirations to work on our schedule. And that's not the process. More so, the child or the goal creates a new schedule for us. You got to nap when you can. Because this thought form that existed in the gestation process of your mind, we gave birth to it. So now you must be the cherisher or sustainer of your idea or your child. And if that child or that idea is not getting enough attention within the first year of its life, the child can just die. They call that sudden infant death syndrome. Your child can just die. Your idea can just die. This blood, sweat, and tears that you gave, all of the effort, all of the revamping of the schedule and the altering of everybody's life that's involved with this child or this idea can just die. And on the pathway to becoming a master, you die many deaths. And you can either choose to stay dead or come back into the land of the living. You can remember how excited you were when you received the glad tidings of this birth or this idea that you were so obsessed about, that you had to do. This is my life. This is my life's work. I got to do. When you study developmental psychology, they say that a child smiles at you at a certain stage in the development so we don't kill the child. That the child knows that it's putting you through all of this hell and this mental, emotional, and psychological anguish, and that the child smiles at you, and in that process begins to give you his or her approval. You can have this great idea, you got this great rollout, everything, boom, boom, boom. You put money here, you put money there, you let everybody know, blah, 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 and all of that in your process. And then you're in business or you're on the pathway to your goal and you hit roadblocks and you see challenges and you're tried and you're tested and you're tried and you're tested and you're tried and you're tested. And you feel like giving up. Some do after the first test, after the first trial. But those who are resilient and they persevere, they keep going. So they get to that point where they're ready to give up. Just like with that child, in this mastering process, you get a smile. You get an aha moment. You get a promotion to the next level of the mastering process. So just like with a child, just like with your goal, just like with your idea, you know it, but it don't know you. So your child or your goal or you on this mastery process, they have to get familiar with you. They have to learn how to trust you or put their trust in you and allow you to be responsible for them. So there's a test for the crops that come out of the ground. Before we ever see or have really eyesight of a crop, we got to weed. And when you put that seed in the earth, the weed begins to grow from the life of the seed in the sunlight and the irrigation. So before you could see the greatness that came from the seed, you got to see the weed. And we're still talking about master. And we're still talking about mastering the mind. So the master goes through this process of being tested by the weed. Tested by these things in life. Tested by the same thing that we said we wanted. The master goes through this process. And the master does not go through this process unscathed. The master goes through this process with every aspect of their being challenged and tested. Every aspect of their being challenged and tested. And they come through that on the other side, those that survive. Those who choose to live after dying so many times. Failure and death is synonymous. But as you know, the adage, you will fail your way to success. You will fail your way forward. Talk to some parents. Talk to some educators. You will fail your way forward. Talk to some masters. Talk to yourself. Reflect on your life and your existence. You're still here. Did you fail in life? Yes. But did you fail at life? No. That's a part of the process of mastery, self-mastery. In the entrepreneurial world, they say spaced repetition leads to self-mastery. I watched that movie, Pursuit of Happiness, again. Like every time I need a little reminder. It's a couple movies I watch. And that's one of the movies. That's one of the movies. And they lightly took aspects of this man's life, Chris Gardner, and his son, Chris Jr., on his pursuit of happiness. And his pursuit of happiness was the American dream. So the same place that the American dream is the same place where the American nightmare is. I was talking to my brother Black Dot, and I said the same place you find God is where you're going to find the devil. And vice versa, the same place you go look for the devil is the same place you find God. It's right there. So it's right there. So in this process of mastery, of self-mastery at that, because you must master aspects of yourself along the journey inside of self to be able to ascend into the higher realms of self. It's an initiation into your mind. And only a master can go into the realm of the mind and not lose themselves in the mind. Go back and look at that movie Inception, where these things were supplanted. This is where they had to go. They had to journey into someone else's mind to supplant it. That was their profession. And they went so deep into the mind, one of the characters had to spin the top around. And if that top kept on spinning, he was still in somebody else's mind. He wasn't in his own mind. But if it fell, that was the only indicator outside of pain that was a reminder that he was in his own mind. So in this process of understanding the mastermind, or delving into mastering of the mind, we have to know who a master is and what that process is. So that's what we were looking to deal with here today. The mastermind. Who is the master? What's the process of becoming a master? So who the master is how they start, what they do in between, and who they are after they attain a level of mastery. So, they say it's not how you start, it's how you finish. All of it is relevant because all of it is a part of the journey. So I can understand what they're saying in regards to it's not how you start the race, like how you start off, how you look when you start off, because you could look great from the beginning and run out of steam and lose the race. Or you could look terrible at the beginning from that takeoff. And it take you a little while to get started. But when you start it, can't nothing stop you and you win the race. So someone who looked good necessarily at the beginning of the race ain't the same one who's in charge of winning the race, who is willing to do what's necessary to wins the race. So back to the mastering the mind. We discuss who a master was, and next week we will delve into what is the mind. In that process of bringing what's in the unseen realm of the mind into the scene of the physical world. So we're dealing with mastery today. And next Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will delve into the inner workings of the mind, from what the mind is to what the mind can become. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. I've seen some people come in. Oh, shout out to fam. What's up in here? Oh man. Yeah, make an old man feel good. You understand what I'm saying? So we're dealing with this realm of the Mastering the Mind series. And I definitely look forward to some of my fam coming in and sharing their perspective, because we want to build a strong mastermind coalition to be able to use our minds in a way that will benefit our people. And that ultimate goal is for our liberation and the decimation of our enemies, foreign and domestic, whomever they are, wherever they are, however they are. And you definitely, if you want to achieve a level of going from an oppressed state to a state of liberation, salvation, and sovereignty, you're going to have to master self, and definitely going to have a mastered mind. So we're going to deal with that in this series. Again, I appreciate y'all coming through, showing love, giving some commentary. So I see from the commentary here that this is going to be a series that's worth continuing. So we'll put some things together and we will reconvene next week. So I believe in like 2 hours or 2.5 hours or something like that, be here after midnight. So definitely love and honor to everybody who came through. Those who are listening or looking at this through the Facebook page, I can't see your comments until it's over. So if you see something live on Facebook, just come through YouTube and I'll be able to see commentary. So subscribe to this YouTube channel, Do Now's Radio on YouTube, and hopefully you'll be getting notifications. I can't guarantee that if you click the notification bell that you'll get notifications. But, that's the intent. So yeah, we'll be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to talk about what the mind is and what the mind can become. We'll deal with both aspects. So till then, peace, love, like power. We'll be back after midnight, like 12 something, So you're welcome to come back through and add on with us. Peace.
Yeah. Now we gonna tell them. Night in front. We tell them like this, yo. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a African. Yeah, y'all like that? No more. This man's mind is open. I'm an African. I'm a African. I'm an African. I'm a. Let's get back to the
motive is best developed by recognizing the common enemy.